His Excellency Dr. Joachim Bergstrom, Ambassador of Sweden to Malaysia, His Excellency Mr. Jaime Munoz, Ambassador of Chile to Malaysia, YB Senator Tan Sri Dato' Lau Kian Chuan, President of the ACCIM, Dato' Tan Tian Meng, Vice President of the KLS CCCI, Council members, committee members, and members of the KLS CCCI, speakers and moderator, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon and welcome to this afternoon's highly anticipated talk on gender diversity, equity, and inclusion. Adrian Brody, in the 2011 movie Detachment, introduces us to the concept of ubiquitous assimilation, the concept of absorbing everything all the time. Images from the media, news, fake news, everything is thrown at us all the time. And then he throws out the idea of double thinking, where we know something to be false and yet we believe in it. For example, I am an SME, ESG is not relevant to me. It's easy to implement ESG when you're a big company. To debunk these myths and double thinks, the KLSCCI is ecstatic to present to you today's panel discussion with Ms. Ifra from Ericsson, Ms. Akmal from Petronas, JC from Monlika, and Ms. Leila representing both Berjaya Corporation and the 30% Club. Without further ado, I would like to invite to the stage Dr. Tan Tian Meng, Vice President of the KLSCCI.
His Excellency Dr. Joachim Bergstrom, Ambassador of Sweden to Malaysia, His Excellency Mr. Jaime Munoz Santiago, Ambassador of Chile to Malaysia, YB Senator Tan Sri Dato' Lau Kian Chuan, President of ACCCIM, Council members, committee members, and members of KLSCCI, speakers and moderator of the talk, invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you. Firstly, on behalf of the Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Kuala Lumpur and Selangor, KLSCCI, I would like to thank you for taking the time to attend today's talk on gender diversity, equity, and inclusion at the workplace. My sincere thanks goes up to His Excellency Dr. Joachim Bergstrom, Ambassador of Sweden to Malaysia, and YB Senator Tan Sri Dato' Lau Kian Chuan, President of ACCCIM, for their concerns to support this event as well as delivering an opening speech and keynote address for today's talk. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development OECD, ESG investing has grown rapidly over the past decade, and the amount of professionally managed portfolio that have integrated key elements of ESG assessments exceed USD 17.5 trillion globally by some measures. The growth of ESG-related trade investment products available to institutional and retail investors exceed USD 1 trillion and continue to grow quickly across major financial markets. Companies that implement a well-organized ESG strategy may attract not only investors but also talent. ESG performance can help companies to attract and retain high-level talent. Having a strong ESG approach can help businesses strengthen talent acquisition, open up investment opportunities, reduce operating costs, open up investment regulatory risks, as well as improving growth and performing competitor through the realization of various sustainability methods. Realizing the increasing importance of ESG, the ESG Committee of KLSCCCI decided to organize a series of seminars in cooperation with the Embassy of Sweden, and this is the second of the series. The first one, themed Sustainability in the Automotive Supply Chain, was organized in August last year with good response. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI for short, is an important concept of ESG at the social level, and it is applicable to companies and organizations that implement ESG strategies. Meanwhile, gender equality is one of the vital approaches of sustainability development and a key enabler of DEI. Furthermore, it is the Goal 5 of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. Today, we are honored to have top management from well-known companies as panelists to share their real-world experiences in terms of the challenges they face, how they navigated it, and lessons learned in embracing gender diversity, equity, and inclusion at the workplace. We trust this event will prove useful and relevant to you as the call for Malaysian businesses to adopt ESG principles becomes stronger. Last but not least, I would like to thank our ESG committee members, Mr. Kui Jia Yao, who is also the moderator for today, and Madam Jennifer Leong, who is also the MC, for all their effort put in making this event a success. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato' Tan. And now to open the session, please welcome His Excellency Dr. Joachim Bergström to the stage.
Let me begin as a human being, as a man, to speak slightly from the heart to open up. I want to thank all of you for stepping out and over to join us today. When we started discussing doing this together with the Chamber, we really wanted to be coming from a space of sharing and not on any high horses thinking that we have the solutions to these enormous problems, but really being in a spirit of learning together. And that also requires a sense of humility and of really acknowledging that while we have taken certain steps, other steps can be as meaningful, and while we have taken certain steps, many steps remain. I also want to say, which is something that's very much on my mind as a human being, that the issues that we discuss here today, human rights, in a sense also democracy, because it's tying to the equal value of everyone, and international law. These are not European concepts. We do not claim authorship to these issues. They are universal values that we stand up for. So in this increasing world unfolding, somewhat bipolar, some say tripolar, whatever you call it, where Western values, so-called Western values, European values, get into conflict with other sets of values driven by other kinds of agencies, I'm bent on bringing it to the universal. And so, again, I do not claim authorship to say that dignity, to say that democracy, to say that basic human rights are European. So that's something that is a tenet here. And then I want to say a huge thank you to the partners. They're all here. I won't bother you with reading them out, but my heart thanks you. And I want to thank the Swedish company presence here in Malaysia. Because I always joke that being the Swedish ambassador in Malaysia is at once extremely easy and extremely hard. And the easy part is the Swedish companies present in Malaysia are the true ambassadors. I'm just trying to catch up. And that is the hard part. All the benchmarking, all the really solution-driven ideas, the innovation, the changing of the discourse, of doing stuff that the Swedish companies in Malaysia and elsewhere are doing are really setting a high benchmark for us who are sometimes poorly paid, but by tax money. And so, huge thank you. And also a huge thank you to KLS, CCCIA, and all the partners, and to the team at the embassy whom has really done this. I just showed up. That was from my heart. Now I will speak as an ambassador. Yang Ber Hormat Senator Tan Sri Dato Low Kian Chuan, President of ACCCIM. Yang Bahagia Dato Tan Tian Meng, Vice President of KLS CCCI. Council members, committee members, and members of KLS CCCI. Excellencies, Embajador Señor Jaime Muñoz Sandoval, el embajador de Chile aquí en Malaysia, Yang Berbahagia, Tan Sri, Datuk Datuk, distinguished guests, representatives of the media, ladies and gentlemen, my very dear friends. Today we are here to share, learn, and talk about a very important issue that affects us all: gender balance and equality in the workplace and in a wider sense also in society. It's no secret that for far too long, women have been underrepresented in many professions and industries and have faced significant barriers to advancement and equal pay. This has not only hurt women, but also our economies, as we have missed out on talents and contributions of half of the population. It's time for us to take an even stronger action and create a more balanced and equitable workplace, one where everyone can thrive and reach their full potential regardless of their gender. Achieving gender balance and equality in the workplace requires a multifaceted approach. First, we need to change our attitudes and bias towards women in the workplace. We need to recognize that women are just as capable, skilled, and deserving of leadership positions and equal pay as men are. We also need to eliminate the systemic barriers that prevent women from advancing in their careers. This includes providing equal opportunities for training and development, creating family-friendly work policies, and actively recruiting and promoting women to leadership positions. But it's not just about addressing the barriers that women face. We also need to actively involve men in the conversation about gender balance and equality. Men can be powerful allies in the fight for gender equality, and we need their support to make this lasting and necessary change. Creating a more balanced and equitable workplace is not just the right thing to do, it's also good for business. I can't see anyone taking note on that part. Should I read it again? It's good for business. Research shows that companies with more women in leadership positions tend to have better financial performance and higher employee engagement and retention rates. Let me briefly address I'm on a payroll, I work for Sweden, I will not talk about Sweden. Let me briefly address some of the ways in which we have worked to perform better on this issue. Sweden is known for our progressive policies on gender equality and has always, for a long time, been a leader in this area. Some of the key policies and initiatives that Sweden has implemented include, first, a gender-neutral language. We have made a concerted effort to use gender-neutral language in official documents and public communication in order to promote inclusivity and reduce gender stereotypes. Parental leave. We offer one of the most generous parental leave policies in the world, allowing both parents to take up to 480 days of leave. with a portion of the salary paid by the government. And these must be, in order to get all of these days, you need to divide them between both parents. This policy aims to promote gender equality in parenting and reduce the burden on women in the workplace. Childcare is also free of charge in Sweden to enable working parents returning to work while also, in a sustainable fashion, rearing a family. Our policies and ambition with regards to goal on gender equality in corporate boards and in government top jobs are again ambitious, with the end goals of reaching 50-50. Gender mainstreaming, which means that gender equality is integrated into all aspects of policy making and implementation to ensure that the needs and perspectives of both women and men are taken into account. Education and awareness raising. We have implemented various initiatives to promote gender equality, including campaigns and to challenge gender stereotypes and combat gender-based violence. Overall, our policies on gender equality are comprehensive and wide-ranging and are designed to promote gender equality in all aspects of society. While there is still work to be done, which we fully recognize, I fully recognize, in order to achieve gender equality, I today hope that our policies and initiatives can inspire and be a model for other countries and companies to follow. In conclusion, achieving gender balance and equality in the workplace, it's not just a moral imperative. It's also essential for our economic success. Therefore, in the spirit of the organizers and us, I invite you to be here, to share, to learn, and to be in a space of humility in working together, creating a workplace largely defined where everyone can thrive regardless of their gender. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I wrote down that women in the workforce is good for business. And now we have our keynote speaker, Yang Berhormat Senator Tan Sri Datuk Lau Kian Chuan, President of the AACCCIM.
Thank you. Your Excellency, Dr. Joakim Bergström, Ambassador of Sweden to Malaysia, Your Excellency, Mr. Jaime Munoz Sanova, Ambassador of Chile to Malaysia, Ibagia Dato' Tan Temeng, Vice President of KLSCCCI, distinguished speakers and moderators, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you. First and foremost, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the KLSCCCI for inviting me to this very important seminar on gender diversity, equity and inclusion, DEI, at the workplace. We are experiencing more and more frequent and serious floods in various states across Malaysia. And I'm sure we all remember the tragic landslide in Batangkari, Pahang, that claimed the life of so many people. These disasters reflect the terrible consequences of rising greenhouse gas emission around the world, as reported in the latest IPCC 6th assessment report that was released recently. But the negative effects of climate change are not the only challenges we face. In our business landscape, we are facing increasing challenges in growing to markets and getting capitals, more and more regulatory risks, and challenges in attracting and keeping talent. In the face of such a wide range of challenges, A business organization needs a multi-talented, open and innovative team. They will succeed or fail depending on their ability to clearly frame the problems and find the right solution. This is why it is so important for us to have diversity and inclusion at our workplace. Companies typically hire people who demonstrate success in their previous job to come into the hiring organization in order to leapfrog the competition. The result is that the workforce will be biased toward a specific group of individuals with a particular background, expertise, and gender. If a company hires purely for profit, it may lack the voice of conscience which call for the fair treatment of the individual and translate into climate justice on a macro level. This call for diversity. Diversity in gender and also prospective experiences and backgrounds. Diversity allows an organization to be more in tune to the community it operates in and thus more sustainable. Ladies and gentlemen, equity refers to leveling the playing field so that each employee have an equal opportunity to succeed. Equity does not imply equal right. For example, if we stated that we treat all of our interns equal and that no one would receive any pay, everyone worked for fresh air and sunshine. Only those with a privileged background will be able to apply. This is not equity. I recall an interesting analogy from Miss Tammy Tan of Red Hat Malaysia. Imagine a company as a tree with apple growing high on top and each fruit representing professional success. Equity would mean providing each employee with the type of ladder they need in order to stand an equal chance to get to the apple, such as education, childcare assistance, mentoring, and more. If we take this analogy to a different dimension and say that those apples represent the climate actions required to achieve our climate goals, the country needs to be welcoming of new ideas and supportive of the different way things need to be done. A talented young person from a minority background with a drive to make the change will be able to shine if given opportunity and exposure. Diversity, equity, and inclusion that become key to unlocking our country's potential to excel. Such is it important that both the KLSCCI and the ACCCIM had set up a dedicated committee to spread awareness and knowledge of ESG. As my fellow speakers have pointed out, this is our second collaboration with the Swedish Embassy, a country outstanding for its pioneering work on sustainability. The Chambers look forward to leading more conversations with you in order to elevate ESG into the mainstream. In conclusion, I would like to point out that the benefits of diversity and sustainable business are richly tangible. It is my sincere hope that each of you, ladies and gentlemen, effect the transition in your own organization and urge those within your circle of influence to begin as well. Then, perhaps, As more organizations, both private and public, adapt a genuine respect for the individual and the whole, businesses will discover access to new markets, attract and keep their diverse pool of talents, and the right solutions will surface in our fight to save this planet. Without further ado, let us hear from our intrepid panelists and moderator on what worked, what didn't, and everything in between on diversity, equity, and inclusion at the workplace. Thank you.
Thank you, Yang Berhormat Senator. I'm glad that the interns working for Fresh Air and Sunshine was just an example. And now I would like to invite Dato' Tan and His Excellency Dr. Bergstrom up on stage to present our tokens of thanks to the speakers and the moderator. To the speakers and moderators, please remain on stage for the photo session. Dato' Tan and His Excellency. Puan Ifrah from Ericsson. Puan Akmal from Petronas. Puan Ifrah, can you remain on stage, please? JC from Monlika. Puan Leila from Berjaya Corporation and the 30% Club. Our moderator, Mr. Q Jayao from Q & Co. To thank the ACCCIM for their support of this event, we would like to invite Yang Berhormat Senator Tan Sri Dato' Lau to come on stage to receive a token of our appreciation. And now we have the exchange of gifts between the KLS CCCI and the Swedish Embassy. Thank you, everybody. And now let's have a group photo to capture the event, the moment. Yeah, let's have a spread of women and men around for some diversity. Thank you, everybody. As our moderators and speakers can take their seats, I will hand the floor over to Jia Yao to lead the conversation.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, it's wonderful to be here, and it's great to see that we actually have a pretty full hall. And thank you so much. It's really nice as well to have our Muslim friends with us in the holy month of Ramadan, and appreciate particularly the participation of our panelists as well. So, yes, I will dispense with the full introduction of our speakers. You have their brief CVs in the event poster. But suffice to say, but in the next 1.5 hours will be our panel session. Yeah? And I particularly wish to thank His Excellency Dr. Joachim Bergstrom for setting the excellent stage in terms of the learning perspective. And together with that, an approach of humility and curiosity. And I think that is the approach we have taken in terms of inviting the speakers to come here. We've selected the speakers based on really the different sets of experience, the sectors that are different, that they are from, the disciplines that each of them are from as well. Because by now, I think we already understand that ESG is a wide spectrum, and no one person or one organization has all the answers. And it is through sharing, and it is through coming together and learning from one another, and this civic space that we can create in terms of discovering approaches. And in particular, I think, can I take a sense of, from the floor, who's been to an International Women's Day seminar in the past month? At least one? I see half the room, perhaps. Yes. Is this the first gender seminar that anyone has attended? The first one? Excellent. We have some first-timers as well. Excellent. This is great. Now, so we have a good mix. I also want to just get a sense, just for the benefit of the panelists as well. So, who would identify with the sense that you are here to just know briefly, generally about what gender diversity and inclusion is about? Just a general understanding, like you're here to, for the, just first time coming to hear what's this about? Anyone? No. So who's here for a bit more advanced in terms of coming here to listen to the panelists from their organizations in terms of practical experience and the journeys? Who's here to get into the practical stories? Well, that's everyone, most of us here, right? So we've sold the event reasonably well in the sense of attracting people. So now we hope we don't under-deliver. I'm very confident that we won't. So let's begin. I would like to think of the next 1.5 hours in terms of 3 parts, right? In terms of our time. So for the first part of our panel discussion, we're going to run through the 4 panelists, where I will invite each of them to speak briefly for about 7 to 10 minutes about their organization's experience in the journey of embracing, of improving gender diversity and inclusion, right? So sharing their experiences, sharing how the framework, how they think about it as an organization, and also to share some of their anecdotes, some practical aspects of it, particularly with the intention of showing not just the shiny and successful and the glamorous side of it, but the struggles, what were the obstacles, and how did they overcome them, right? Because those things are particularly valuable, so that for those of you who turn up when you're pursuing improvements in D&I, when the obstacles come, you have the confidence to say, well, this is what it feels like, because we've heard it from the panelists. So so that's the first part of our time. And then for the second part, there will be a moderated conversation where we will then pick from the themes that have emerged from what the four of our speakers have shared. And then in the third part, the last part of our time together, we will be taking questions and feedback or observations from the floor, and then the panelists can bounce off from what's coming from the audience. All right, so that's the basis that we'll go. And we will start with Jean-Christopher Gillou, Vice President of Global Operations and Gloves of Mölnlycke, and then followed by Ifra, Vice President of Sourcing of Ericsson Malaysia, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh. And then thirdly, we'll move to Puan Akmal Niza Ahmad, Senior General Manager of Petronas. And then last but not least, we will then turn to Puan Nurlela Baharudin, who is the co-lead of the Enable Pillar Mentoring Work Group of the 30% Club Malaysia. And she's also the Executive Director of Berjaya Corp Berhad. Leila wears two hats for today's purposes. So we'll start. Let's get the ball rolling with JC. Over to you.
Thank you, and good afternoon to everyone. I'm very honored to be sitting with distinguished panelists of very large companies. So first, my name is JC. You can easier to say JC Gillou, and the company is called Mölnlycke, which is not easy to pronounce. It's a Swedish company, so as maybe we are not as famous as Petronas or Ericsson, I'll just introduce the company a little bit. So we are a Swedish company based in Gothenburg, in Sweden. We have about 8,000 employees, and we are working on medical device, basically. So, and in Malaysia, we are specializing in surgical gloves. So, being a Swedish company, DEI, I think, came relatively naturally for Mölnlycke. We have a 50-50 gender ratio for our executive leadership team. But I think this was done naturally through the Swedish culture, but we didn't really make a conscious effort. It's just normal, I would say, in Sweden. And for all the other countries, we are present in over 100 countries. I think it's important that we document this and really have a policy and have effort. So we are working on this at the corporate level, and this is coming this year, where we're really working with our ESG initiatives to have a real focus on DEI. For Malaysia, we have about 3,000 employees in 4 factories. So we are in a manufacturing environment. 3 of those factories and 2,600 people are in Kedah, North Malaysia. We have a majority of female in our workforce, but our leadership team, or my leadership team today, is majority of male. So we have, I would say, probably 80% male. The second level, which is encouraging, is about 60% female. So the younger upcoming generation are more females. And what we've done, and as we said, we need humility, and clearly it's a journey, and we have a lot of work to do. What we started to do is we've initiated what we call Kopi Dengan JC, which is every day or every other day I started meeting with operators for half an hour to listen, complaints, suggestion, or compliments, which is quite rare, but and with the objective to be a better employer. So we want to be the employer of choice in the north of Malaysia. to attract talents, but of course to retain our people. So it's important to listen, and there's many things that came from these meetings with the operators, and some of them were related to gender equity. So we implemented a few things, and that really show people that we care. Things like a lactation room, for example, which we are very proud of. So for ladies that are coming back from pregnancy, they can have a private room with a fridge to keep the milk, with a sink to clean the equipment, etc. We have some dedicated spaces for pregnant ladies for car park. I've got my list here because I don't want to forget things. A few things that we did also. Yeah, we have a gym and a sports center in a new factory that we just built with futsal, badminton, but also a gym, so we can organize, Zumba, yoga classes, etc. And these are small things, I would say, but it's important that, as we were discussing the other day, these are the cherry on the cake or the icing on the cake, but we need to build the cake first. So it's nice to show, but people call greenwashing, as you know, when you're doing things that are just for show. We don't want to do DEI washing. It needs to have a real plan and a real roadmap. So a few other things that we did, when the government changed the maternity leave from 60 days to 98 days, we extended this to 120 days. We also stopped the attendant bonus. We had an attendant bonus when people don't have MCs, and this was actually a problem for ladies, because sometimes, or most of the time, I would say, if the kids are sick, it would be the lady that take the leave. When they were pregnant, they wouldn't have the attendance bonus. So we stopped this. We have a performance bonus, which is not related to whether you need to take emergency leaves or MCs. So this is also a gesture for all our ladies. We have also strengthened our anti-bullying campaign and policies. We did a lot of training on sexual harassment, making people understand. We are in the north of Malaysia. We are in a manufacturing environment, and there are things that sometimes are a little bit of another age, I would say, that can be tolerated but shouldn't be accepted. So it was important to train all our operators as well on sexual harassment. Is also about words, about attitudes. So we did a lot of effort in there, and it's a continuous effort. It's not a campaign where you put posters and you've done your job. It has to come really in the DNA of the company. And maybe my last comment would be a policy for our recruitment, and I see Raj there in the audience. When we recruit our leaders, we always request to have candidates from different races, but also different gender. And because my leadership team is a majority of male, I'm actively seeking females in those positions, and it's not always easy. And we don't recruit people just because they are a female, obviously. We recruit the best candidates. And I don't want to recruit a female just to make a number, but I do believe that it brings a better harmony in the leadership team. It brings other point of views, and we need more female in the boardrooms and the leadership team. So we really actively, for all our recruitment, number one priority, and Raj knows it for every job, is I need to find a female director for this role. So we try our best, but it's a journey, and we still have a lot of work to do, and I look forward to listen to the other panelists to learn, and also sharing with all of you to learn and improve.
Thanks so much, JC. Really appreciate that, and appreciate the keeping it concise. I did mention about keeping to time, and I'll be quite strict about it, but I didn't need to interrupt you. Next, can we move, can I invite then Ifra from Ericsson to share from your perspective, Ifra.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be here. Very good crowd. And I have to borrow your words. Having diversity is actually good for the business, right? Now, before that, right, how many of you knew what Ericssons are doing in the business? Okay. Stated there 5G. So if you look at your phone, whether you have 5G or not, then you know that basically Ericsson is actually a Swedish-based company. We are actually a company who has been in the world for the last 147 years, right? And we are basically in information and communication and technology. We provide the so-called connectivity. In Malaysia, we have been almost close to 60 years, right? And just to touch base to get the scene right, in Ericsson's global board of directors, 37% are female. In Malaysia, we are close to 30%. We're about 29.4%, right? It's a journey, as JC said, it's a journey. It's not, we are not there yet. But what I would like to share with you guys, it's about the journey that we went through. I would like to touch base also where Ericsson comes in, because this year, International Women's Day, we talk about digital connectivity for technology and innovations, right? So when you look at that, right, from Ericsson perspective, the questions globally, how do we support the community when it comes to connectivity? How do we ensure that we actually allow equity for women, for girls, so that they can actually venture into all the so-called STEMs, science, technology, engineering, and maths. That's where we so-called prepared them for the future. I remember, if I recall correctly, one of the secretary was telling me, saying that by 2050, 75% of the workforce in the future are basically based on these STEMs. So reflecting on that, Ericssons are looking at how do we support the community when it comes to connectivity, providing everybody with access, providing every single ladies, girls, women across the world with or without the connections, so that they can actually have the access to the educations, awareness about what is technology and so forth. And at the same time, later on I would like to hear also from my panelists about how do we increase the women, the leadership, so that we can do more and support the business. So in terms of the journey that Ericsson have taken from that part, globally, we are trying to see what we can do to the bigger scope. I was a diversity manager in Ericsson Indonesia when I was posted there, and I also was a diversity manager in Malaysia. One of the things that we went through is about how do we build the confidence level of the female employees to speak up, to always want us to be a contributing employees to the organization, right? And this is where the questions comes in. How do we, in terms of diversity, creating that so that they feel comfortable that they can actually be part of the success of the journey, right? So therefore, what we have in Ericsson is basically smaller steps, smaller programs that we had. For example, we had the so-called Aspire program, meant only for the female employees, so that we can coach and build them into preparing them to be a talent, right? So we have a program so that we identify the female, and also questions whether, would you like to be in the Aspire program? We encourage them to assess, then we guide them through. But it will not be easy, because sometimes along the way they come back saying, I'm not very comfortable to go through it, right? But again, this is where we also anchor with our male leadership team. Hey, how can you actually support us to get this thing done? Therefore, our so-called champion and sponsorship for leadership for the diversity in the region are actually from men. They are the one who become the sponsorship and champion for us, so that he can also help us to inculcate the feeling of, hey, we have this group of female employees that we wanted to develop. I'm now the sponsor, you guys have to follow through the same, right? So there's a lot of things that actually have to take into considerations from top down. But I'm sharing this from the telecommunication perspective, because a lot of questions comes in, hey, normally women are not very good at this, there's a biasness, that kind of thing. And even the questions, when you look at the CVs, you come and say, oh, I want this because they have the experience and so forth, right? So again, it top-down approach that we have gone through. It's a journey that we actually start smaller steps, program and so forth. But at the same time, I think at a glance, I feel that all of us here can contribute in such a way that we feel that how do we help all the female, our girls, our children, to feel confidence that you can step up, you can speak up what you want to do in your future career and so forth. So to me, when I look at Ericsson's journey so far, we are not there yet. Those are the things that we have actually adopted and so forth, right? I think that's what I want to say, JC. Sorry, yeah.
JY. So yeah, I've given Ifra permission to call me JY instead of struggling with my Chinese name. Thank you, Ifra. Some very important reflections. I think the importance of tone from the top, the allyship with men, and clearly men have a role to play as well in shifting. Right now, I would like to invite Nisa to then take the floor. Nisa, over to you.
All right. Petronas is a national oil company, and in general, it's pretty much an engineering company. So in the last couple of years, if you hear engineering, oil and gas, definitely it is more male dominant than female. In the last couple of years, we did some studies and we saw the demography coming into the organization. In fact, our men's strength is about 50,000, and the population of the young ones are more than 50%. In fact, it was 55%. Then we said, how do we remain attractive for this group? And that is one of the key point when we thought, diversity and inclusion would be something that is a value proposition that we want to offer to our employees, so that they know that working with Petronas is also have a lot of flexibility, a lot of support into the younger workforce, gender, and so forth, so on. In 2015. One of the key activity that happens is, I think during that time, Talent Corp was doing a lot of initiative, and they asked companies to come up with initiative. How do you make sure females stay? How do you make sure female, after a certain career growth, decided to take a career break? Some at one time, I know our friends go and do baking, do a lot of business because they feel staying in corporate is difficult. The support system are difficult, and a lot of policies that doesn't really support them. So in 2015, the first initiative where Petronas set up the Petronas Leading Women Network. That was the first, a key event when we realized we need to give focus, and we need to give also, establish certain policies that would actually encourage women to have the right environment, more conducive for them to stay. And offer them to also certain benefits that would make engineering is also for female. And over time, we realized, and I was just sharing with JY, being in Petronas, we grew up with very structured, rigid, if you may, and everything is always like, why do you want to do that? Do we need to go into that? Why can't people just be like what we used to be? So then we decided it's okay. Sometimes, asking for a half-day leave or provision in a policy is also quite a challenge. And I would say that in a couple of years, when we were, proposing for policy change, to some companies, what a big deal, right? Half-day leave, it's not a big deal. But in Petronas, even introducing such things, initially it was quite a task. Just to share. And over time, we realize, where we are today with the energy transition, the demand of us looking at a lot of other initiatives to have our employees to have more innovation. We realize diversity, equity, inclusion is an area where we need to be familiar an area where our employees can grow, and this is also encourage innovation. Like you said, when we start to do this, we start to see the young ones coming up with a lot of innovative projects, and that translated to a new business streams. So that is something that we're looking now. I shall stop here, and maybe later if you have any question, I'll share more stories about Petronas.
Thank you so much, Nisa. And last but not least, let's hear the first interventions from, over to Puan Leila. And so Leila, just to remind, wearing two hats as a board member of Berjaya Corp, as well as a key person in the 30% Club Malaysia. Leila, over to you.
Thank you, JY. Good afternoon. Salam sejahtera. Selamat berpuasa to our Muslim friends, and special thank you to everyone who are here, especially from both the Berjaya Group as well as from 30% Club. Thank you for your support. Your Honorable Ambassador to Sweden, the co-hosts, as well as KLCCI, as well as the host for this event, ACCCI. CIM, okay, and Q&Co for bringing all of us together today. Thank you. I'm here, as JY said, wearing two hats, although you can't see the hat, but it's in my brains. As the Executive Director of Berjaya Corporation, as well as one of the co-leads of 30% Club on the Enable Pillar, and I'll explain to you a little bit more about it as we go along. But first on 30% Club, on Berjaya Corporation, as I sit as the Executive Director and as well as the member of the board of Berjaya Corp. As everyone here knows, I believe, is that Berjaya is a large conglomerate based in Malaysia, headquartered in Malaysia, with operations all over the world. We are in places like Finland, we are in Japan, we're in Philippines, we're definitely in Indonesia, we're all over. So if you don't know our business, then you have to go back and check. But let me share what are the four main business segments that we do. First, we have the retail. And in retail, we have the food retail and the non-food retail. Then we have the business segment on properties, which we do development and investment in properties. Then we have the hospitality, which includes our hotels and resorts, as well as our vacation club. And finally, we have the services sector. And in services, we have, perhaps you're not aware that we have a telecommunication business. We also have an environmental business. And we also have a financial services business. So it's a very diversified group, to say the least. So with that quick introduction, the time now is 3:05, and everyone is probably thinking, what a nice time to have an afternoon siesta. This is not the time to have an afternoon siesta, because I am going to give a short quiz, and just to see who's been awake and who's been asleep while I was talking the last 5 minutes. Okay, so are you ready for the first quiz? Okay, listen carefully. So, Wati, where are you? Okay, Wati, my assistant at the back, she'll watch and listen to when you give your answer. Please introduce yourself. And if you get the answer right, then we have a small little gift for you, courtesy of Berjaya. Okay, so the first question. Name 2 brands of Berjaya in our retail food business. The gentleman that put the hand up first in pink. Yeah, you. Sorry, the gentleman, yes. Please stand up and introduce. Shout. And let's hear your answers.
First thing is Starbucks. And Kenny Roger.
Can everybody hear?
Kenny Roger.
Starbucks and Kenny Rogers. Wati, is that correct? Yay! What's your name?
KY.
From?
Y architect.
Architect firm. Okay, KYJY. Okay. I'm confused.
Leila, you're hijacking this panel session, but I shall bear with it. I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm sure there's a point to this.
I'm sure there is, and this it's to wake everybody up because I'm sitting between 3:05 and 3:30.
Okay.
The next question, and I have another gift. If you listen very carefully, name 2 brands of our Berjaya hospitality business. Hospitality. The Berjaya colleagues cannot answer this one, okay? You're exempted. Come on. Come on, come on.
Your marketing team is going to get it after this.
Uh-oh, nobody wants the prize. Sorry, would you like to try? Yeah, would you like to try? SH? Too general. Okay, maybe we don't have, we'll keep this prize to ourselves, Wati. So to answer, maybe an example that you can give is, could be Berjaya Langkawi Resort. We have the chalets in Langkawi. We also have the Taras, which is our diamond resort in Redang. And you could also say Berjaya Times Square Hotel, which is just downtown where we are. So too bad. Never mind. I'm moving on. With that introduction, on diversity at Berjaya Group. So to say our total workforce really reflects gender balance. We have a 50-50 population of male and female, which is perfect, I think, just like JC. And I think we're fortunate because in this industry of hospitality, food, we're blessed we can attract women to work for us. However, if we look deeper into the numbers, we start to see that from the management, top management upwards, the numbers start to dissipate. So at management, we still have a 50-50 ratio, women and male at the management. So as long as they're called managers, then we call them management in that category. Going up the corporate ladder, the top management, unfortunately that number starts to dissipate and is actually about 33-35%. So only 1/3 of the women made it up the corporate ladder, and the other 2/3 are still the male. So, and this is something when I came in, I felt, okay, we got to do something about this. But yeah, I will talk about that later. My colleagues and I will join me in saying that we have a lot more to do in reaching diversity in our top talent pipeline. But that will be for later. The other hat that I'm wearing, I need to mention, is about 30% club. So how many of us here do not know about 30% club? Okay. So let's say like about 1/3 of the population. So the other 2/3 knows 30%. Okay, I'm happy. So for those of you who do not know, don't despair. After this, you will know a lot more. So 30% Club started globally in the UK, and in Malaysia, our chapter started in 2015. That's about 8 years ago. And since I've been an advocate of 30% Club for the last 6 years, I have supported in the area of the board mentoring scheme, whereby we bring in women who are seeking to receive guidance and training and support from mentors, and these mentors come from the corporate chairmen as well as independent directors, to mentor them over a 9 months period. And at the end of that, they are mostly certified as board ready. It could vary. Sometimes they could be board ready for smaller companies, some are board ready for bigger companies. So this number now translates to about 80 women in our alumni over about 7 cohorts, and we are going to graduate the 8th cohort, and very soon we will be doubling this number to more than 200. So we hope that we can have more in the pipeline. So for the businesses that are here, if you're scratching your head looking for talents to fill in your board seats for women, I have a good number of CVs from different profiles, different backgrounds, different expertise. Just come and see me after this. Okay. So as I mentioned just now, the main purpose of 30% Club as a business-led campaign is to improve the diversity of women on boards. So we do this by going through three pillars. So the first pillar is the Activate pillar, where we speak to chairmen and CEOs of companies on how we can help them to support them in DI initiatives in their workplace. Then for the second pillar, which is the influence pillar, we speak to a bigger audience of stakeholders to bring an ecosystem that supports diversity in the business. And finally, the enable pillar, which is where I come from, I support the talent pipeline, and that is through one of them is the board mentoring scheme. And this is how we bring in talents to the front to fill in the C-suites as well as the board requirements. So to look at the journey of 30% Club in terms of statistics, as of today, I could speak as at the end of March, we are at about 29.7% of the board seats on the Bursa top 100 are comprised of women. 29.7% of the board seats on Bursa top 100, which means these are the top cream companies, high capitalization, these companies. But when you look at the whole ecosystem of Bursa, 900 over companies, there are 970, if I recall, only 22% of the board seats are women. And there are still 156 companies on Bursa that do not have even one woman on board. So that's really, really sad to me that 16% of the companies on Bursa do not have even one woman on board. And I am happy to say that Bursa has taken a very tough stand on these 156 companies that by June the 1st, they must have at least one woman on their board. Otherwise, they will face either stiffer penalties, I believe. So there is, I hope there is no extension on that. But if we look at the numbers, do not despair. 29.7% or 22% or 0 for 156 companies. Malaysia has come a long way from where we were when I started with 30% Club and when 30% Club started. We've actually doubled that number from 15% to almost 29.7 now. If we have 1 or 2 nominations today, we'll hit the 30%. Yeah? If we compare ourselves to the region, let's say we compare to ASEAN region, so compared to Thailand, Philippines, even Singapore and Indonesia, we are way ahead, very much ahead. Malaysia is at the forefront. And we compare ourselves even to Hong Kong, the financial hub, the offshore financial center, we are way much ahead. But if we try to compare to say the UK counterparts, UK companies, or even Sweden or Finland, for example, they're way above. They're about 35 to 40%. So, we need to look far ahead, not just within ASEAN, and look far ahead and say, how do we get there to that level of 30, 40, and eventually 50 that will reflect the gender balance that we really want. So that's for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leila. Thank you. And also thank you for keeping to time. I appreciate that. Although, the work that 30% Club does is broad, and obviously it is important. So thanks for sharing that. So now I'd like to circle back to JC. JC, you talked about the diversity within Monlika, which is reasonably positive. You have 50-50 in terms of your workforce makeup, gender makeup, and then I picked up, you said this is normal in Sweden. So I would like to ask you a question in terms of what are your observations, what are your thoughts in terms of, is there a culture kind of clash or struggle or a translation of different cultures for your factories in Malaysia, between the Malaysian culture and a Swedish parent company's expectations, and then mashed in with conventional sensibilities around gender DEI?
Yeah, it's a tough question. I don't think there's a culture clash, because I think Malaysia is quite evolved in that sense that you have a lot of women with high education and powerful women, as we can see with my fellow panelists. And I think, as you said, Malaysia has come a long way. And we have a lot, I like to say, in most Asian countries, the women are running the countries, actually, right? Because they're doing everything. It's more on the, certain perception that sometimes women will take a break, or culturally, in particular for us in Kedah, which I think is slightly different, Kedah from KL, for example, where people will be more conservative, where sometimes, you have 2 kids, 3 kids, 4 kids, then you take a break. And the male is maybe not going to take as much a share at home as in other states or in other countries. So it's not that much about the capability, it's how do we make sure that the female feel that they have a future, that they have a path. And at the moment, when I was saying 50-50 is our board and our leadership team worldwide. For Malaysia, we have a majority of female, but the management is not. And that's why we've been recruiting quite heavily the manager level. And as most companies, you manager level, maybe you are 50-50 or 60-40, and then top management, it gets less, right? So I don't think there's a culture shock per se, but it's more probably the perception of lack of opportunity, where female might be, or the ladies might be a bit less ambitious sometimes, and we need to work on our talent process so we can also detect talents and push them and show them that there is a path for them in there. So
thanks, JC. And I want to just build on this a little more and listen to Ericsson, which is also a Swedish company with substantial operations here in Southeast Asia. When you move, when you make steps towards programs, say raising awareness on gender biases, programs towards more inclusion, is there a problem where this is perceived among the workforce as something coming from a Western culture, or there is none? I'm drawing this from His Excellency Dr. Joachim's very powerful reminder that this is not a Western agenda. This is universal. This stems from the very, very basic fact that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Right. So, my question. So similar. I'm swinging it over to you, and JC, do feel free. Ephraim.
I think, again, just to reiterate, because this is based on Ericsson, a Swedish-based company, right? And culturally, I have to say that when I first joined them 20 years ago, what I realized is actually the culture in the workforce by itself are quite flexible. They allow the woman to speak up. They allow us, whenever we have any challenge, the management actually facilitate that. When we went through this COVID-19 pandemic situation, for example, right? For us in Ericsson, that has been our ways of working, that we have flexibility. Once a week, if you have to actually take a day off, work from home, that has always been the culture. So when it comes to program about this diversity and so forth, right? We have not seen anything to say that this is from the Western. It's very much into the values that I have to say that the Swedish culture has brought forward into Ericsson's. It's very much into very family oriented. You take care of each other. That's why when I first saw, hey, they've got paternity in Sweden. How come they don't have that long paternity in Malaysia, right? But for that reason, right, when we have programs on diversity, it is not being seen as Western whatsoever. It's being seen that we take a good values, inculcate and incorporate in our Ericsson's ways of working, and it has been adopted quite well in that sense, right? So that's the comment that I have. Even when you look at these, we used to actually have this family day, children's day, whatsoever, right? That you can bring your children to see how their parents work in the office, that kind of thing. It inculcate that the children from the very beginning, then everybody say, hey, you can do that, so that everybody have the understanding where the family comes in.
Right, so in fact the demand comes from the workforce, which says, why is there a double standard? Perhaps we should also have that here as well. So what then would you say in terms of implementing these programs? What would you say was the main obstacle? Maybe, what springs to mind?
If I took one of the programs that we had when it comes to educate, we have the so-called educate programs, right? And it's top-down. We wanted to actually inculcate the awareness of education, technology, and innovation, and so forth. I think it's very much into putting the effort to create the awareness within the organization, that they don't feel that it's imposed to them, but it's actually meant to develop and allowing them to have their career growth, because then you have this additional program to help you growing, building your own confidence, and so forth. So I think in that sense, I have to say, even though they did not actually to say, no, we don't accept it, but it takes a while, rounds and rounds of creating the awareness, getting to the ground to let them, hey, you should actually, nominate your team to come and join with the program Aspire, for example, because some of the line managers would feel, if I let go my staff to do this, I don't have anybody to back up, that kind of thing, right? So, but I think, again, as I say, when the top-down approach comes in, the leadership team, which is actually our colleague that comes in and, hey guys, we need to do this because it's actually good for the business. I think that's actually slowly being adapted quite well, right?
Right, thanks. So then moving on to how do we get the top-down tone to be, so the tone at the top has to be right. And I turn to Nisa, and appreciate that you were, being candid in sharing how the Petronas before was a much more conservative organization, but that it also understood that it needed to attract and retain talent. So maybe can you share a little in terms of how the kind of efforts required that went in terms of getting buy-in from the top management?
I think our diversity and inclusion, we are still on D&I. We are not DEI yet. It's still D&I. We started in 2019 when the board asked us to come up with policy statement, a D&I statement. And I think the board acknowledged that, if we really want to do this, we better have it all clear. So we have it approved at the board, D&I statement, where it says everybody can progress together. And then from there on, we establish D&I council, where the business leader actually lead this council and look at all the activities, efforts that we want to have. And as a start, we acknowledge we can't go really gung-ho and too big about things. So we said we go slow, little steps, where we took 4 focus areas that we're going to focus on. And these are gender, and we track in terms of female at the leadership position. We look at multinational at leadership positions. Age, we're trying to get people with 35 years and below really rising up I mentioned to you earlier some of the projects, we start seeing them really leading and coming up with new ideas, innovation. And the fourth one is the culture, where people feel safe, the sense of belonging, which address the inclusion part, right? And a lot of things, a lot of times we thought diversity is quite easy. You buy from the market, you want to see, different mix of workforce. You just buy from the market and there you go. You get the mix. But inclusion is where a lot of effort. So when we are going into this journey, it's really tough in the sense that, similar to Ericsson, we start by educating the top leaders. We did a program called Unconscious Bias, and we get our leaders who chair People Development Committee when they talk about talent management, performance, and all of those, to understand and kind of, be neutral when you discuss about people. As you know, Petronas, we in hardship countries, namely Iraq, in South Sudan, Juba, we are not in New York, London, and Paris. That all has been taken up by other majors. So we are in countries where Turkmenistan, and now we are growing in Latin America. So sometimes we can't help it, but we thought, maybe female doesn't want to go this. Or when we discuss it, we don't send female because it's dangerous and all that. But to our surprise, some of them really have no issue in going. And now we start to send, managers, senior managers, leading department, let's say HSE, or even some of our technical areas, a female stepping up that they want to go. So now we say to our leaders, like, before you make that judgment and say that women would not want to venture into all this, stop being biased and just open up and get people to volunteer. So we did a lot of those programs. Now we are into a program where we want to also bring in conscious inclusion. That means we get our leaders to consciously include people, right? And we're still on journey. We still have a few cohorts to run. We just have started. And we are checking in, we will check in through our culture survey to find out whether people experience leaders practicing this. I know one of the key things now people are talking about psychological safety. It's really big in Petronas that we are addressing that matter. People sometimes don't free to share their ideas and speak up. One of our culture belief recently is speak up. So we're really encouraging people, we're providing the safe space, and if there are some leaders who are misbehaving, I'll go and say hello to them. I mean, normally we say, please create the right environment and right experience for our people. So that's some of the areas that we work on.
Thanks, Nisa. Yeah, I think I would love to take on that, the speaking up aspect of an environment and making an environment much a safer place for people who may be different, or who are just different from the people who are sitting on the board. In that direction, so getting buy-in into that directly translates into the people on the board hearing more noise, and then they will frown, because before it was peaceful and quiet because everything sounds like so familiar. Well, probably because it's coming from people from my age group who went to the same schools, same gender as me. How do we get buy-in? How do we say yes to them? Say in the early days, mindful, say, if we're thinking about an organization that is beginning its journey, so someone who is on a board, but being on a board with other board members who crack sexist jokes, are quite set in their ways, they've come a long way, and so they think, I've seen it all, right? And I know where we should go, all this is a fad. And so if you're on a board, and you're thinking of, wow, a D&I council is a long way away, but how do I move towards that? How should that person think about that framework of that systemic shift for his or her organization? Leila, would you like to take this one?
I'm going to weave in through the how 30% Club addresses these topics. Of course, we have conversations about this when we speak to our corporate advocates. Some people ask us, why 30%? Why not 20, 50, 70? So this will resonate with your question. We said 30 is the minimum number. It's the level that will bring a significant noise, if you want, in the boardroom. One voice, one female voice, although that's what Busa says, by June 1st, one will do, but we feel that one voice is very lonely to sit in the boardroom full of male. Your voice will not be heard amongst all the noise that's happening. It's very lonely. So we advocate that, that companies think about not just one, but at least two, because that will give the women, the only woman, a partner that she can spar what she's thinking about outside the boardroom before she brings it in. And hopefully then they will both gain more votes from their effort together. So to the other board members to say, you know, watch out, these ladies can make an impact, but not just by one person. It's very lonely. We need more than just one to make the noise happen. On another note, we are at 30% Club again. It's not just about numbers. It's also about the narratives that we use when we speak to corporate advocates and to the audience like yourself today. We don't talk about diversity in gender anymore, but we go into diversity in all other aspects of leadership, be it the C-suites or the board. You talk about diversity of skills. A board member doesn't all have to be of the same. If let's say this is an energy company, they don't all have to be oil and gas engineers. There are some could be from different backgrounds. So diversity of experience, skill sets, even age can bring about change in the boardroom. So you know, nowadays I have companies that are coming to me and say, Leila, we would like to see CVs of a younger age, you know, perhaps 40s. So to me, that's a new way of thinking. And I need to go back and look at my list of 85 alumni in my alumni group and look for the age group, because that's becoming different now. They are appreciating the diversity that age brings. So apart from background, experience, skill set, soft skills, technical skills, you name it. That's where the narratives that we are bringing in about diversity into the boardroom, not just looking at gender anymore, but beyond gender. Because diversity brings value, it brings competitive edge, and just like what Your Excellency said, having women is good business for the companies. So that's where we keep drilling that, no, it's not about the quota. It's about what the woman brings with her to the boardroom. So that's one way, I think, is how you break the groupthink, how you break the stereotyping, and perhaps how to break the all-boys club. Going further, it's not just me talking. We have studies, we have research that you can refer. For example, this year alone, McKinsey released a report that says that women in the boardrooms with diverse backgrounds, with different genders of the boardroom, makes good business sense. And of course, McKinsey is probably, you say, it's Western again. Well, fret not. We have Institute of Corporate Directors Malaysia, ICDM, and they ran a survey. This was during even the pandemic, they ran the survey, and the result shows that companies that participated in that survey shows better performance, better financial output, better in almost every aspect of the business for those who have women on their boards. So it's not me just drumming the drums, but it is proven in terms of the survey. So you can look up, or I can give you the links to those reports if you're not sure about it. So we say that diversity brings to the board are enablers of good board governance. As we mentioned just now, it breaks the groupthink. So it allows for others to bring in different perspective into the boardroom. So this is what we sell to say the male counterparts who ask, why do I need a woman on board? Further to that, I also want to mention that at 30% Club, we have, like what mentioned in the International Women's Day recently, we ran not 2 but 3 talks about embracing diversity. 2 are on web seminars, you were there, and 1 on BFM podcast, and this one is very interesting, if I can also share the link. And the title of that podcast is, Have We Moved the Needle for Gender Equality? And whatever I said earlier about the percentages, the needle has moved when we started at 30%, but it moved perhaps here, and it's not yet tilting to this way. So there's still a lot more work to be done. We're not over, the journey is still continuous. So for the audience here, we have about 50 corporate advocates already on 30% Club. And these are companies I can throw. Petronas, Ericsson, you're not there yet. Morning, sorry, I'll pay a visit in Kedah. PNB, Khazanah, EPF are all part of our corporate advocates. And very interestingly, we also work with Institute of Investor Council, whereby recently the Institutional Investor Council made a stand that they will not invest, the members will not invest in company shares that do not have 30% women on board. So for example, your PNBs and your EPFs and your Khazanah will not invest in public listed companies that do not have 30% women on board.
Is that starting immediately already or in a future date?
Yes, this was already made as a code last year when we talked to the then advisor for IIC. And at that time, our Minister of Finance, Tengku Zafrul, nodded to it. He even added that GLICs, which also includes Khazanah and EPF and PNB, are mandated to have 30% women on their boards as well. So that applies. So you see, it makes good business. Women is good for business. It offers you competitive edge, and you then can compare and attract investors from even outside the country who are much, much more familiar, who are more advanced in this journey than us, to invest in Malaysia, and that makes good business sense.
Thanks, Leila. JC, an intervention.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on this also on the internal advocates. And I think it's also one way to push the agenda to use successful female in our industry and in our companies to actually be advocates. So for us at the last, back in January, we had our global kickoff that we had every year with the top management. And it was quite interesting that we have 4 business units in Monliquor, and we had all the vice presidents of R&D that went on stage, and they were all women. And it wasn't staged, but it was enhanced a little bit to show that, well, that was the 4 powerful women, because R&D is what will drive the company forward with innovation. And it was very interesting for us to have 4 ladies there, and everybody was really celebrating this. The other way I use it also for Malaysia in particular is my boss is our executive vice president for Glove is a lady, and she's probably the best boss I ever had, to be honest. And she's really natural, and she's a great leader. And I have in my management team a manufacturing director, and she's a lady, and she was struggling, telling me, but you don't understand, it's hard for me to manage the team because I'm a woman. And I tried to coach her and say, you don't have to behave like a man, you don't have to try so hard, just be yourself, and you have the authority, etc., etc. But it kind of resonated when she told me, you don't understand. She's not talking to the boss, she's talking to a male. So I asked my boss, I said, can you talk to her? Because you're a female boss. Can you try to talk to her and coach her and say, hey, how is it to be a female in leadership. And I thought that really opened her eyes tremendously. So she had a coaching session with her and her phone number. She said, call me anytime. And having this conversation with her was so inspiring because she's like, oh yeah, okay, I can do that. And so using, shamelessly my boss to actually push the agenda really helped her, for example. And every time we have the opportunity, I will use her because she's fantastic, but she's also willing to coach, younger females. So that's one way to have also internal advocates for us.
Thank you so much, JC. I thought that was very useful, and yeah, I think that's the humility in terms of and that self-awareness of, oh, maybe it's me, and it's okay, and then focusing on the task or the challenge, and then finding it with the solution, which you then connected a solution to it, which then was instead of let me try to fix this. All right. Okay, that was very useful. Now, I think we have a lot of good energy from this. So I would like to start inviting questions as we move forward, and then we can get some questions. So instead of just going on with my questions, I have a lot of questions. But I think I would like to just start with some questions, and then we can talk some more based on the questions from the ground. And so the first one to put a hand up, we'll have the mic. Yes. Oh.
No, I put up my hands by walking to the mic.
Okay.
Right. Okay. First question. We heard a lot of success stories on what worked. So let's dig into the stuff that didn't work. We'd like to get into that. So what did not work? What were the lessons learned? And how did you overcome it? Thank you very much.
What's your name? Sorry.
My name is John. I'm from the chamber as well.
Thanks,
so
John.
much.
Yes. Who would like to take that? Share about what didn't work. I think JC shared a little bit about what didn't work, and then he got to work around on that. But please.
No, I think at the end of the day, if we look at the percentage of leaders that we have, you say 30%, 50%, of course, if we are still at 15%, it means there's still a lot more to do. So, and again, it's a journey. When you have leaders in charge, I can't, just fire them and replace them with women. So we have to wait until, the dinosaurs can die. But no, I think for me that's it's a journey. So it's difficult for me to say what work doesn't work because it takes time, and it needs to be part of our DNA. And I think we make great efforts and great progress, but it takes time. And there's not one thing I can say, oh, that didn't work. It's in progress. We'll see in 2-3 years if it's actually working. So we need to be patient as well.
Would anyone like to share on what didn't work? Leila? Yeah,
very quick one. So this is for the other hat that I'm wearing at Berjaya. So just now you heard about what we said, that in terms of population-wise, we are quite balanced, 50-50. However, when we look further up the ladder, we only reach up to 1/3 of female at the top management. Now, this doesn't mean that we failed. It doesn't mean that. As what JC said, it's a journey. And so do not despair if you feel that, okay, my company very hopeless, 10% only. It's not the end. It's a journey that we need to go through, and you go through it together. Very important is that you engage first with your top management, because we said just now, tone of the top is very important. When they believe, when they support, and the board is behind you, then the resources that needs to be allocated will be part of the agreement. Doesn't mean that you need dedicated people. It's, for example, in Berjaya, it's the existing team members that we have, and basically it's weaved into their work. If you're a manager in your unit, so you're responsible for the talent of your department, the succession planning of your department. Not everything is to be done by HR. So what we say in that number, that 1/3, we need to build a more structured, a better approach of our succession planning, our talent identification, and so we'll we put in place, and we are putting in place more things like our executive leadership training. We're putting in place a knowledge team so that people continue to learn, and that the talents are being identified, are also being nurtured, and that in a way that we hope from there that not just as an attraction for the newbies to join Berjaya, but also as a retention plan that we want to keep these people throughout their journey in Berjaya until they reach the top. So it is not the end, and at Berjaya we continue to work, and we believe that we can do it together.
Next question.
Hello, hi everyone. I'm Fai Shukri from Fai Shukri & Co., my own legal firm. Well, my question is, I believe and I understand that this is all work in progress. It's still not conclusive. But what I heard today, hi His Excellency, what I heard today is very much about gender diversity in the spectrum of the binary world, like female and male and female. So how about the non-binary people, the transgender, the trans man, the trans woman? What is the position, what is the position in your respective company? And especially in Malaysia, living in Malaysia, knowing the fact that the sentiment is very much prohibiting, the people of different gender identity, or people who are not conforming to the male or the binary world. So what is the position of your company? And then, especially we know in our Sharia enactments, I'm a Muslim myself, that strictly prohibits people who cross-dress. So how do you reconcile the position of the local law and regulations, and how do you move forward as a company that promotes international values or human rights issues? So I need to have insights, because I'm also working on a project on DEI, and I need that input from the Sharia perspective on how do we move forward as a business entity and corporate entity on really promoting this gender diversity, so it does not have to be confined specifically for the binary world, because gender is really diverse. It doesn't have to be male or female per se. Thank you.
Thank you, Faiz. I think that's a very, very interesting and an important question. I think Leila has alluded to the fact that when we speak about gender diversity and inclusion, we're not just saying it's gender alone as a differentiating factor, but all the efforts that you talk about is about seeing people as human beings and ensuring that they have equal dignity and rights in that sense. So who would like to respond to Faiz's? Yes, Nisa.
They say good luck to me. I don't quite have answer that you would like to hear, perhaps, but Petronas, like you know, is a national oil company, and I'm sure you're curious on how we're going to drive this, right? And we do operate in more than 20 countries. So our first stand going in, we respect the law of the land and also the practices. For example, in Malaysia, we observe the law, like you mentioned just now, the Sharia and all that. Hence, we are still referring to male and female in Malaysia. Yeah? But we acknowledge when we have our lubricant retail side in Latin America, in Brazil, in Argentina, in Mexico, we have to embrace what they practice. In fact, our PLI, our Petronas Lubricant International, that is based in Brazil, they have all of this. They even have a group of, the disability and everything else is already also part of the workforce that they are actually considering. So being in Petronas is quite diverse in that sense. We acknowledge in Malaysia we are not a national oil company, and we abide with the law that we of the land. But when we are in the country where the land is such that they recognize all of that, and we will respect this as well. That's why in our D&I statement we said we progress together, and the key values is respect each other's uniqueness. And when I went to talk to staff across the global operations, that's what I tell them. Whatever beliefs that you have and all that, we respect because that's the uniqueness that you have. And that's how we can actually work together, that sense of belonging, and that's what the Petronas family is all about, and in a bigger scale. So still slowly, just surely it'll come perhaps one day. Thank you.
Thank you, Nisa.
Chair, can I share?
Leila, please.
On the Berjaya side as well, on diversity, it just goes beyond gender. We have good success stories to share. I'm sorry, the success stories continues, because success stories is where you can see and say, can I copy from that? So the easiest thing is to copy if it works elsewhere. So on diversity, we can say that we are the first store, the first Starbucks store in the world to start a signal cafe, whereby our employees are the deaf. And they work there with our support, using the skills that we teach them so that they can go out into the world and use it for their daily lives. So the first signal store in Malaysia then give rise to, in KL, give rise to the one in Penang, and then that gives rise to the other Starbucks across the other parts of the world, like New York and Tokyo. So we are so proud that we started this diversity of workforce. And you should visit our Signal store that we have in KL. The other diversity that we want to shout about is about what we do, what we practice when we open new resorts, for example, on remote islands, for example, in Redang, Tioman, maybe Langkawi, not so much. But in those resorts, we employ the locals. We don't bring in people from KL folks to land there and start working. We employ the local people and we give them sustainable income to thrive by working at our resorts. So employing locals is one of the values that we say that when we open up new business somewhere, elsewhere, we don't bring in our staff, new staff, we employ the locals. And that will give them a longer sustainability income. Another, I would say, proud of that we do is that we employ the indigenous. In Bahasa Malaysia, we call them the Orang Asli. And we have them in our Berjaya Hills Resort in Pahang, whereby the Orang Asli lives just next to us. And they are working in our resorts. So instead of income that's perhaps not sustainable, we're giving them sustainable income. So that just goes to show examples of how you yourself and other companies can look at different diversity dimensions, not necessarily gender per se. Thank you.
Thanks, Leila. I thought you were going to share about Berjaya's policy on non-binary perspectives. But
it's equal and fair, non-discriminatory, non-racial based policy. We have that as
Fantastic.
a base. Yeah.
Fantastic. Pauline.
Yes, thank you so much. So my name is Pauline. I used to work for Alcatel, Invest KL, and Maria. Yeah, I've just retired and looking out for board positions. So yeah, if you need, let me know. And now the question I have for you is this. Yeah, so I applaud what the 30% Club has done. I was there for the launch by the previous PM on the 2013 on achieving 30% board positions. Yeah, for listed company, but me, after so many years in the industry, I still believe that we need a policy. Yeah, without the policy, we can, go and shout and talk, and yell, but, for things to take place, it's very slow. Like Norway, they have been practicing 40%, and it's a legislation. Yeah, so I believe that we need a legislation to make things happen. Otherwise, like you have just rightfully said, out of 900 companies listed, there are still 150, that has 0%, board, of women. So that is really, unimaginable. Let's see. I hope that they don't change, their announcement. For 1st of June, I really hope that they will keep to the announcement. Yeah, but the more important thing is that I want to address to the four of you is this. I myself, been working with MNCs for many years. For the last 30 years, is always with MNCs, right? So the only thing that I have we are all talking about ESG today, right? I'm looking at global and not just local, right? Like Molin and Ericsson, you are MNC. You have the ambassador is saying that for maternity leave or maternity and paternity leave, you have what, 480 days, something like that. Are you practicing in this in Malaysia? And why is this? This is general for humanity and for women and for parents. Yeah. So my take is this. Yeah. If we are a global company, why can't we take the similar what you call that benefit globally? Yeah. And why is it that we just want to make the bare minimum of the country that we operate? Yeah, in Malaysia, we started off with 2 months, which is 60 days. And every MNC that comes and operate in Malaysia say that, yeah, we just follow your rules. We stay with 60 days. In, like Alcatel is a French company, and in France is 6 months maternity leave. So why we Malaysian women can only enjoy 60 days instead of 6 months? Yeah, what's the logic? And we are talking about ESG globally. Yeah, this is just a very simple example. So that is the question for Ericsson and Molin. And for you, Petronas and Berjaya, what about you? Are you doing the same? Yeah, you use Malaysia as the reference, and do you practice this across the globe? Because you say that Petronas, you are not in the the expensive or the glamorous cities, but the lower, the cheaper and cities. Are you trying to change that? Are you not giving them, the same benefit that our employees are enjoying in Malaysia?
Hi, Pauline.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. In the essence of time, I think that will be our last question for today.
Oh, that will be the last question, Jennifer? Okay,
Yeah.
So there's another one, but that's okay, because Pauline has asked numerous questions. I, in my arbitrariness, because I have the power, I will pick 2 questions from Pauline. She's asked really sharp questions. I'll take the 2 questions and then pose it to, that means for 2 responses from among the panelists, and then we have to wrap up because Jennifer has the power when it comes to time. So the first question, could I throw it to Ifra from Pauline's submission that we should regulate, we should legislate for ESG, or at least for gender diversity. And Ifra, with a compliance background, what do you think, the pros and cons, and the dangers or the usefulness of this approach, legislation?
Pauline, I'm going to answer based on my limited knowledge, yeah? To be honest, the way, for example, Ericsson's works, right? Yes, it's a global company in Sweden. But when it's incorporated at local country, for example, Malaysia, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh, whether you like it or not, we have to actually follow the local legislations, at least bare minimum, and then see how the local entity actually incepted and do the adjustments to it. For example, I'm talking on behalf of how Ericsson in Malaysia, where we actually have the so-called retirement fund. The bare minimum local legislation is set at a certain level, but local entities set at a slightly different higher level. So it's actually the way a local entity is set up. If I look at, for example, in Indonesia, it's a bit different as well. The legislations for people that are going to, stay, retire, it's a bit different. So I have to comment based on my limited knowledge and compliance, we have to follow the labor law on the local country to ensure that at least, the way the entity has been set up is actually following the local law, right? Of course, if you ask me back then, if I have 480 days, I would love to have more babies. Even now, I was talking to my colleague just now on the way, if I had 98 days, right, I would love, the maternity, but it doesn't work that way anyway, right? It follows through the way it works. So that was just my comment.
I don't think that you should say that it's not that way. Yeah, we need to change.
Pauline, sorry, we can't have a back and forth, but you can do that afterwards. All right, here's a tip. All right. So thanks, Ifra. Now, Ifra said that we should comply with the law, and I think the second part of Pauline's question was what's stopping businesses from performing rather than just barely complying. So, what are perspectives? Who would like to take this one?
Yeah, there's also rules if you take Sweden, and I'm not Swedish, but I'm French. Whether it's Sweden or France, one of the reasons why companies can give 6 months or 1 year is also the government is chipping in, right? So, and also that people are paying 50% tax. So it's, where the difference comes as well, where Malaysia, you don't pay 50% tax and the government maybe chip in a little bit less. What we did for Mannlicher in Malaysia is, because we feel that we are representing Sweden and we are a company that wants to put DEI in the forefront, when the government, as I said earlier, moved the law to 98 days up to 5 children, so the 6 children, you don't have anything. What we did is we moved it to 120 days and unlimited children, which I admit will be quite rare, but some people have more than 5, right? So we tried to push the boundaries in terms of minimum wage. When the government put to 1.5, I push it to 1.6. So that's not European standards, but at least we're trying to do a bit more for our people and giving a bit more. So as a multinational company representing a country that is advanced, I think we have to do that. That's a proposal that I made, and it was a non-discussion with my boss or with the CEO. It was immediately, yeah, absolutely, we should do that. So that was relatively easy because the cost is not negligible for us, but it's something that we try. So it's only 120 days, but it's 4 months, it's not too bad. And a little bit more than minimum wage. So we're trying to push a little bit the boundaries.
Thank you. Yes, Nisa.
Just to share with Pauline, now I know who she is now, Pauline. For Petronas, normally when we enter a country, we normally look around what's the market behavior. There are practices that we could be superior in terms of the provision, but we don't simply align and offer globally because we do not want to disrupt the market where we operate. So we also respect that the market is as such that we don't just simply go and say we want to pay or we want to give extra benefits overly. However, there are provisions like pilgrimage leave that we started to identify provision where we can actually have across the group of companies of Petronas. So we are identifying bit by bit and see which one that is in a way would not disrupt the environment or the locality of the country where we operate. So still in the context of respect where we go in. Yeah.
Thank you, Nisa. And with that, we draw this to an end, but I would like to end with a call to action from each of the panelists, just one line, a brief one. But in the meantime, for the audience, while the panelists think about their call to action, we would appreciate your feedback. This is the link, the QR code to the survey form. If you could complete this, perhaps even now, that would be really helpful in terms of making improvements. Now, let's end with a call to action from this direction over to that. JC.
I think for me, it's diversity is so normal for me in a way that it shouldn't be something that we have to do or say we must have 50% of women in the board, or it's a bit of a shame that it's not something that is totally natural. And it's not because women are women that we want to have more women. I think it's to really have what you say earlier, the diversity. So different age, different background, different personality, different gender. And I think for me that's the key thing. So of course the situation we're in today call for a focus on having more females at higher management, and we need to push for this. But after that, it's really having more diversity altogether, and it just makes sense that you represent the population, which is barely roughly 50-50, or actually a bit more women and men, that it should be represented in a company as well. So for us, it's really have a plan, and if I have a call to action, it's no DEI washing, meaning having the token woman that is there and okay, thank you, you can make the number. It's really build a plan and have a roadmap and be patient because it takes time, but if we do the right thing, it will come eventually.
Thank you, JC. So the numbers really should be the tip of the iceberg, but the real work is really under the surface. So we're not just chasing numbers. Nisa.
Be conscious and aware about your bias.
Beautiful. And Leila?
Can I have 2, not 1?
I knew you would bargain for that.
Yeah, there you go. 2 hats, okay. There is this, well, it's not 1 word, but it's 2 words that we did not hear today at all. And before we end, we should hear this word. These words is called male allies. In this world, the woman does not live on her own in isolation. There's always the man behind or next to her, and they call your male allies, be it your partner, be it your best friend, be it your boss, be it your staff. So for us to thrive in this environment, in the workplace or at home, we need our male allies to go through the journey together, so not in isolation. That's number 1. The second one I want to share is a little bit about a metaphor. So today's topic is about gender diversity, inclusion, equity and inclusion. I have a metaphor for the D, the E and the I. Diversity, so take note please, because there will be a quiz after this. We still have 1 more prize, right? What D?
Come, Leila.
Were you? Okay. So diversity is about being invited to the party. Inclusion is about being invited to dance. And equity is having a dance floor that is even for you to dance. Thank you. Oops.
Thank you, Leila. Thank you. And last but not least, Ifra.
I think there's no shortcuts to achieving diversity. You can actually assess first your organization. And to me personally, it's not just about gender, male, female, but what I inculcate to the team, to my team, for example, is you need to explore all the opportunities there is. Multiple tasks, multiple roles, multi-countries, you travel everywhere. That's what you call diversity, and learn from other people's around you so that you can pick up the best from there. And to me, it's beyond just the so-called female, male, whatsoever, but diversity is a very huge word. So again, there's no shortcuts to it, and it's not one that fits all. It depends on what your organization needs. So that's what I can comment.
Thank you so much, Ifra, Leila, Nisa, and JC. Thank you for all the preparation beforehand, and thank you so much for the sharing today. And last but certainly not least, thank you to all of your participation and your questions. And for the questions that didn't get the chance to some airtime, then the speakers will still be around. We still have a little bit of time for you to continue these conversations. I'd like to hand the time over back to Jennifer now. Thank you so much.
Thank you to all our speakers and our very apt moderator. As we end this very genuine session, we would like to invite you to scan the QR code on the screen again to give us constructive feedback in order for us to create activities which can assist you on your journey into ESG. Once you're done with the very important survey, there is a fika awaiting outside in the foyer. It is a Swedish tradition of pastries and coffee, and today the refreshments have been prepared by the staff of the Swedish Embassy just for you. For our Muslim guests, we have packs which you can take back with you. Thank you once again to His Excellency Dr. Joachim Bergström, members of the ACCCIM and the KLS-CCCI. Ladies and gentlemen, for your active participation in this discussion. Thank you very much and have a good day.